There are YouTube channels out right now with over 100 employees. These teams have gotten massive over the last decade, and for a lot of people, it's a dream to work for one of these channels. What are the good things about it? What are the downsides? And what's the overall experience like for these people? As a creator who's been working for or with other YouTubers since 2016, I have a lot of opinions on what that experience is like. But rather than spilling my tea, I prefer to drink it. So we're going to be reading reviews off of Glassdoor, which is basically a website where you can write a review of what your experience is like working for a company. So this is Mr. Beast's Glassdoor, and it's really actually surprising. 3.3 stars out of 5. And only 42% would recommend to a friend. This is kind of crazy if you ask me, because you would think that Mr. Beast, the largest YouTube channel on the planet, would be like the dream job for anyone like aspiring to work with other creators would want to be a part of. Compensation and benefits, 3.4 out of 5. Diversity, 3. Career opportunities, 2.6. That's going to be interesting to dive into the reviews, because you would think that this is the top of the line. Culture and values, 2.5. Work-life balance, 2.4. Senior management, 2.3. That's the lowest. 2.3 is lower than anything else on here. The top review highlights by sentiment. The cons: intense workload, unempathetic upper management, horrible HR department, no protection of private employee information, OSHA and Department of Labor violations are rampant. Those are pretty damning. Let's take a look. October 6, 2023, and it's a 1-star review. Amateur hour at its worst. Former contractor, not an employee, less than 1 year, Greenville, North Carolina. They pay you for housing and a car. Compensation is fair. Completely disorganized company. Leadership lacks leadership. Managers lack experience, location, and no work-life balance. So the location one is interesting to see if that's a repeated offense here, because I think Greenville, North Carolina isn't the most attractive place to work, and I've even heard Jimmy talk about this in different interviews.
I would highly recommend you don't build a company in a middle of nowhere, North Carolina city like ours. Most people don't want to live there. It's a lot of convincing, to be honest. Got to find people where work is their life, and so they don't care.
The advice this person has for management: you need people with actual production experience. You need standard production roles like production assistants, production coordinators, line producers, wardrobe department. One thing that a lot of these YouTubers mock traditional media for is that they're too structured and they're too like old school and they're not innovative and they can't be innovative and they're bloated and all this stuff. But at the same time, coming from within, you have people, or at least a person here, complaining that they don't have structure. If you've never had that experience, whether it's from film school or commercial production in your professional career, you wouldn't know how to do this. And this industry, the video making industry, has been around for 130 years now. So this contractor, I'm leaving with a grain of salt because he's a contractor, not an employee, but he does say some very triggering things that I know exactly what to expect. This is a 2-star review. A former employee of less than 1 year. So this person did not last long. So we also have to take this with a grain of salt, because clearly this individual did not fit the workplace environment. All right, despite my lack in experience, I was paid quite well. This is one of the pros. Definitely above the area average, decent benefits, plus stuff like free feastables. If you can survive long enough, there's decent prospect for growth in the company. So that's pretty good to see that people can grow within the company. Going to work is like living in a soap opera. Oh my God. That's hilarious. You know, I did not expect to see that. Okay, of course, any social environment where you have 100 people on a team, there's going to become drama. But for some reason, oh my God, let me take a sip of tea here. Some departments have rock bottom morale and upper management does nothing to do so. Oh, not to do so. Nothing to well manage the situation. It sometimes feels like we're talking to a wall. In general, upper management are either incompetent or friends with Jimmy. Ooh. Okay, so we're painting a pretty interesting picture of what it's like to work with Mr. Beast, which makes sense because it's hard for Mr. Beast at his level of popularity now to find somebody that isn't going to use him. So of course he's going to put his friends in positions of power because he can trust them. However, they might not be the most qualified for the job. So what do you do as a creator who your business is your identity and your fame? How do you fill roles? at the top level if a lot of the people applying are people that are fans of the page? That's an interesting dilemma, and that clearly paints a picture of what's going on here. Move out of Greenville and revise upper management. People then will stick with you for more than 6 months. So I guess this person didn't even last 6 months. And I guess this might be a reoccurring problem. See the value in your employees and make them want to stick with you. Otherwise, your house of cards will soon crumble. Most of all, move out of Greenville. So he says that 3 times. Unhealthy environment, 2 out of 5 stars. I would think YouTube videos with movie budgets were great during this turbulent time of the film industry. Now I understand why unions exist after working here. It's one thing to be compensated well under a short turnaround videos, but it's another when the average hours are 60+ hours per week. Poor editors have the worst 24/7 schedules. Unless you're a pregnant producer or can kiss cheeks to upper management, you're in for a doozy and a work schedule. The first thing that popped into mind when I just read that is the criticism that Jimmy has towards outside producers coming in to give him feedback on how to run his ship.
Or they think they know better, especially if they come from traditional, which is why I don't hire traditional anymore, because they think everything we do is just stupid. But it's like our shows aren't scripted. Things aren't efficient, but they can't be efficient because to be efficient, you'd have to fake things, and we don't fake things, you know what I mean?
But what they criticize is the structure and the process that these established studios have. They say that, oh, they're not agile enough. We do things unscripted, fast and loose and stuff like that. And for a Mr. Beast video, when you have 100 challengers and 150 cameras on a location, what that creates is a ton of footage to sift through. And if you can't afford to hire like one video editor per camera, you're not gonna be able to find the golden nuggets in a reasonable 40-hour work week. Jimmy actually boasts about how many cumulative hours a video takes to make.
How many hours would you say it takes to edit the average video?
So our 100 million subscriber special, I think we were just doing the math, collectively like 1,700 hours across all the editors.
And this is probably one of the reasons for it, because of these 24/7 schedules for the editors. It's a really poor culture, the craziest drama I've ever seen in an office. Interesting. So this person does seem like a seasoned employee of like a media agency. The way he writes and the things that he points out. There's little to no pride. The lead producers have a cutthroat attitude. Executives carry sense of entitlement instead of common ground. HR is non-existent. You'll likely experience upper management flip out over something trivial or make poor decisions with good people. That sucks to hear. Hearing about how the CEO chewed out an overworked editor in front of everyone and then later fired her plunged post-team morale. Post-team means like the post-production team, so the editors. Interesting. Who's the CEO of Mr. Beast? Is it Mr. Beast? Mark Hustvit? Is he the CEO? He's the president of Mr. Beast. Here, let's see Mr. Beast's. Yeah, wow, he's the CEO. Okay, so I wonder if he meant Mr. Beast chewed out somebody and fired them, or if it was the other guy. Or when an incompetent comedian producer attempted to screw over a Sundance level producer. The way that he describes a comedian producer and then how he describes a Sundance producer, clearly this guy is from a heavy production background. Sundance is a film festival, one of the biggest film festivals in the entire world. Clearly, I guess Mr. Beast tried to hire more traditional media people, and those people did not fit or mesh with the culture. So what this tells me is Mr. Beast's culture knew that they needed to take from traditional media, like film and television, and implement them into their production. But it seems like every attempt that they do backfires because the two cultures do not mesh. And I'm somebody that started on YouTube in 2010, moved to traditional media, and then came back to YouTube. So I know the tension between the two. I could imagine the entitlement of the Sundance producer, but I could also imagine the entitlement of the Mr. Beast comedian producer. Very few producers have been there for more than a year. I fear some severe danger ahead with how complicated the videos are becoming. I produced some great segments where lives were literally changed, 6 to 7 figures were spent, and promises were made, and some of them were either cut because they don't have a banger retention or they don't need it anymore. It sounds like this guy was probably like a producer for one of the Mr. Beast secondary channels, like Mr. Beast Philanthropy. One of the many company pillars is see the value. Please see the value in your own hardworking, talented employees. Study the top creative companies and how they attract and retain top-tier talent. Intrinsically, the leaders, including Jimmy, must practice stoicism. Everyone seems on edge. He's just on this autopilot to the point where he's not even he can't be stoic about it because he's just a machine. This mountain he's building is so big and it would die overnight if he took a day off. And you're probably going to be seeing that in 2024. This is the year of burnout, the year that all of these creators that exploded early during the pandemic finally decide whether it's time to quit or scale back. We've seen it with Tom Scott, we've seen it with Ali Abdaal, we've seen it with a bunch of other YouTubers. And they're not the first generation of creators to face burnout or to become washed up. I've made an entire video about that, which you could check out right here. And if you like this video and you want me to review other YouTubers and their companies' Glassdoors, please hit that like button to let me know. Cheers.